Aloha family, welcome back to You Are Your Own Beloved. If you've noticed, I've been posting a lot of shorts with Karma, my best friend, my four-legged fur baby. And I just got some really sad news the other night from my vet that she has heart disease and fluid in her lungs, which came as a big shock to me. I'm still processing it and just been like crying all weekend. So today's Sunday. I got the news Friday night. So I can't call the vet until Monday to ask questions. And, she asked me, she said, "Do you have any questions?" And I was like blown away. I was like barely able to compose myself and refrain from bawling my eyes out. But I did my own research, and there are things that you could do to help. She's 14 and, I get it, but it's still a shock, and it's still heartbreaking to watch something so pure and loving and good suffer. And that's what I cannot handle. And so, I learn a lot from Karma. And a lot of my messages actually have come like just inspired by her. And she's been with me. I rescued her 14 years ago from a shelter, and she's sitting over there listening to me. And yeah, so how she came into my life was that at the time I was in a state of depression and going through a divorce. And I talk about it actually in my first book, Fearless Freedom, Becoming Soulfire, and how she came into our lives. And my daughter, she was 15 at the time, said she wanted a little dachshund, like a little wiener dog. And so, and there's a whole nother story behind this, but I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm just going to start at this point. And so I just Googled mini dachshunds, and Karma popped up, and it was a litter. And I called the woman, it was a shelter in Pennsylvania, and I called this lady, and she said to me, she said, "Yeah, the litter was abandoned in the woods, and we know what the mom is, but we don't know what the father is." And I was like, oh my God, that's me. That's my story. Because my biological mother gave me up for adoption, and she didn't know who the father was. And so I was just like, oh my God, I have to have this dog. So I met them in New Jersey, and it was like the whole litter, and there was 4. One was taken, and there was 3 left, and my daughter picked Karma. So, and when we had her, she fit into the palm of my hand. She was like 1.5 pounds. She was so cute. I don't know why I don't have a picture of her then, but I put her in my cup holder in my Nissan Xterra, and we drove back to Long Island. And Karma, I have many stories in my book about Karma, actually in my second book too, You Are Your Own Beloved. There's stories about her in there, and the things that she's taught me and what I've learned from her. So much. And I could just make videos upon videos about that. But what I wanted to focus this video on is how to deal with grief, how to deal with sadness, how to deal with heartbreak, how to deal with loss, and I know, one day she's not going to be in this physical world, right? She's going to leave her little body. And, that's something that I have to face. I've been kind of like not facing it. And this weekend kind of just really like put it right there in front of me, where it was just like a reality. And, I was just really sad and crying. And yesterday I brought her to the beach with me, and she walked right into the water. She's not a water dog, but she knows that I love the water. And so sometimes she just walks in, and she knows that it makes me happy. And So all of a sudden I just heard this message in my head, and I think karma transmitted it to me because telepathically we communicate. I'm just trying not to get emotional as I do this video. That's why I'm talking very softly. I'm trying to just keep my composure so I could just give this message because I think it's really important. And I heard, you could always choose to be happy. And I thought, yeah, that's true. But the sadness is overwhelming. And I sat with that though. Like, it's a choice. And that was what was presented to me yesterday. And I know it's from karma. It's always our choice. And whether we're conscious of it or not, like, it's our choice. Like my shirt says, master, I don't know if you can see it, master the mind, right? It's always our choice to choose the thoughts we're going to have, even though we're not aware of it. A lot of times we think the thoughts are just coming through our head, and sometimes they are, but when we pay attention and we look at them, we can always choose to have a different thought, right? Just like our feelings, you think, well, it's not my choice to choose my feelings, I just feel that way. Well, that's not true either. And I'm talking to you from experience, from someone who felt everything and all the heartache and pain and sadness. I felt so much of it that I shut down my heart and went up in my head and thought, well, it's safe up here because then I don't have to feel the pain. And you know that what that does is it just makes you numb and doesn't make you alive or really living your life. And so after I learned, okay, well, that's not good, and I need to like work on opening up my heart, then it was like the opposite. Then it was back to like, oh my God, like I feel everything now, and I feel everybody's pain. Like I'm an empath times like 100. So it's like, you know, you can't walk into the world and especially if you're observant like I am, and walk into the world and not notice and see all the suffering around you and not feel that. So it's like, great, you know, now I have all these feelings that it's like overwhelming. Like I just want to stay in my home and like not go out into the world, but that's not realistic, right? And that's not my purpose. So I had to learn that you also can choose your feelings as well. I was like, wow, really? I could really choose my feelings? Because I've only felt like pretty much most of my life is like pain and sadness, or like nothing, like numbness, or anger, like angry for the longest time. Yeah, and so what I've learned over the last few years is that you have control over your feelings, and it gets easier when you start to really heal the deep-seated traumas and wounds that you're carrying around in you that you've kind of like pushed away to the side. When you heal them, then the triggers aren't as reactive and as severe and painful, and then the feelings aren't so much of like polarity where it's like up and down, like this roller coaster ride, where it's more like, okay, there's going to be ups and downs, but it's going to be not so extreme. Once you do the work, the inner work to heal the inner trauma and the inner wounds and the inner child and integrate the shadow into your being, that's like many other chapters. And I have a lot of how to do that in this book. So then the feeling part becomes easier to deal with. And then I had to learn, like, first I had to learn how to control this, which is always every day a work in progress. You know, every day it's like, it's not like you master your mind and like, oh, I've never have a negative thought again. My mind doesn't wander. No, it's like constant every day, all day long. Watch your thoughts, stay in the present moment. Watch your thoughts, stay in the present moment. Did you drift into the past? Are you worrying about tomorrow? I mean, this is like what I do like all day long. It's exhausting. So master your mind, then master the feelings, the emotions, because you know what happens? The thought comes first and then the feeling. And it's so quick. if you're not paying attention, you're not even aware that that's how it works. Like when you wake up in the morning, you don't wake up and you're like, oh, I feel sad. You wake up and you're like a blank slate, right? Sometimes you have such a deep sleep, or maybe you've done some astral traveling, that when you wake up and come back into your physical body, into your bed, you're like, where am I? That happens to me all. I'm like, where am I? Who am I? It's like I must have been like doing some really like space exploration in my sleep. So there's nothing, there's no thought, like there's no emotion, and then you have the thought enters your mind, and then comes the feeling. And so you have to be careful. That's why mastering the mind is so important, because the feeling comes after it. And so if I'm walking around, in reaction to my fur baby's predicament, and I'm thinking, oh, this is so sad, and I don't want to see her suffer, and I can't bear it, and what am I going to do when she's not here? And I'm having all these thoughts. Of course I'm going to feel depressed, right? But if I choose to look at it in another way, and I choose to say, you know what? I'm going to celebrate her life, and I'm just going to focus on everything that she's given me, Sorry. Like, I don't really want to make these videos while I'm this, while it's this raw, but I feel like my spirit's telling me to. So if you're watching this, like, this is authentic. This is coming from my heart, and that I'm telling you, I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy when you're dealing with the loss of a loved one. It could be an animal, it could be a family member, it could be whatever. I mean, there's so many different things that we could lose, and it doesn't necessarily mean by death. And it's always a choice, though, of the thoughts you're going to have about the situation. And if you start to think like, wow, I'm so fortunate, and I'm so blessed to have had these 14 years with her, and look at all she's given to me, and would I have traded that if I knew this is how it was going to end? And really, it's not an ending, because it's a lot here still. It's not an ending, and so you could have these thoughts as well, because I know that this is the truth, that the soul never dies. The soul is eternal, right? The form changes. And in India, when you die, or when you transition out of your physical human body, they say that you've now entered in your big form. And the big form it means that you're everywhere, in all things. It's like your infinite, eternal essence of all that is was stuck in this little bottle, this physical vessel. And that when you're ready to leave this physical vessel, it comes out, and then it's like everywhere and everything, because we are all connected, and we're all one. We're all part of, on a metaphysical level, we are all part of the same energy of love, and of source, and of God. So we all return back to that same source energy of God, and of love, and of the universe, and all that is. So they say you're in your big form now, which I love. And you never lose love. Like, love never dies. And that feeling of love, it just, maybe that physical being isn't there in your presence, But it doesn't mean that they're not there, that their essence, that their spirit, and that their love is not with you. And so I felt like I needed to make this video because I know so many people that are dealing with loss and grief, and I understand that it's hard to, or it's easy, I should say, to get stuck in the sadness and in the suffering and in the heartache, but we're not meant to stay there, right? If we can transmute it and rise up out of it, we become a living testament, a living benediction, a living light for others. And we help to pave the way energetically to make the path for others a little bit easier each time one of us rises out of that pain and suffering. So I just wanted to share that with you, and my voice might be a little bit shaky, so I just like to sit and breathe with you. Maybe just go into a quiet state within your own heart. I think it's important, if you are grieving, to honor yourself and to accept those feelings and to feel them all the way through to the end, no matter how long it takes you. I've grieved for a couple of years over someone. They didn't die, it was just a separation. I think that's really, really important. Acceptance is necessary in order for us to transmute anything. We need to first accept. There's Karma. See if we can take it. Karma, I'm talking about you. There she is. Okay, so acceptance is key. And then we could rise above it and observe from a higher perspective, from our God perspective, from a higher wisdom, a higher intelligence, and then be able to choose our feelings and our thought and our emotions. Know that we are in control and we have the power to choose the thoughts we want to experience and the feelings we want to experience. And if we choose the more positive, life-affirming, nurturing, happier feelings and thoughts, then we will feel better, and that's okay. And that's good. And the people that have maybe transitioned, or the beings that have transitioned, would want us to not be sad, right? And that's the other thought, they wouldn't want us to be sad. So anyway, thank you for sharing this time with me, and I hope that it's brought maybe some comfort in some way. I hope so, because it's helped me to remind myself that I am in control and I have the power, and I can choose to be happy even through the sadness. I can choose my thoughts, and I can choose happy thoughts, and then that will bring me happier feelings. Aloha stay. The soul fire in me, I give to you. Aho. To learn more about my offerings, visit my website at igniteyoursoulfire.com. Please subscribe to my channel and comment below, my soul family. Thank you for being here on our precious planet Gaia at this time. Your light matters. You matter. You make a difference in the world by just being you. Ahuiho, until our hearts meet again. You are loved.